I thank all of you for coming here to join us today for this press conference at ICANN 42 here in Senegal. I have some very brief comments I'll share, and then Steve will have a few remarks, and then we will be very happy to answer any questions that you might have. This is our 6th public meeting in Africa. ICANN has 3 public meetings every year, and we rotate them through the 5 regions of the world, and Africa is one of those 5 regions. So every 5th meeting takes place here. The most recent previous meeting was in Nairobi in 2010. At this meeting, we have the largest turnout or level of participation in ICANN's history of African meetings. There are 1,246 registrants for this meeting, and we're extremely pleased. We were of course honored earlier today to have President Wade of Senegal speaking to the ICANN community. Our community is comprised of many different stakeholders: ISPs, or Internet Service Providers, domain name registries, domain name registrars. We have civil society. We have intellectual property experts, internet addressing experts, many different communities. And we also have an at-large structure that engages the broader community. And our at-large structure in Africa is called AFRILO. And there are 24 different at-large structures. You can think of them like chapters. And here in this room yesterday, we had a very nice showcase of all those groups, sharing some of the things that they're doing. As an organization, we're presently in the midst of launching the largest new program in our history. It's called the New Generic Top-Level Domains Program, or think of opening up to the right of the dot on the internet. So instead of .com or .net, think of almost anything. This program has been under development for 6 years, and we've been traveling around the world the last couple of months to share this program in every geography. And we're pleased that you, as reporters here in Africa, are here to learn more about ICANN and to hopefully share some information about this program as well. The program, in short, will open on January 12th of next year, 2012, and will be open until April the 12th. The application fee is $185,000, and the annual fees for the program are $25,000. Those amounts cover the costs on a break-even basis of what is necessary to process the applications. One of the discussions here in ICANN Dakar is about support for needy applicants. And the board of directors of ICANN has made a decision to allocate up to $2 million to help needy applicants. And the ICANN community has developed some proposals for the board to consider. We hope that there will be applicants for the program from Africa, as well as from other geographies, for those who decide they have an interest. And we at ICANN are not here to advocate the program. We're here to educate so that organizations can make a decision about whether they wish to participate or not. That's all I have to say in my opening remarks, and I'll now hand it over to our chairman, Dr. Steve Crocker.
Thank you, Rod. As Rod said, it's really quite exciting to be here in Africa again. One of the things we're conscious of is the, we're rearranging microphones here. One of the things we're conscious of is the early stage of many of the developments here in Africa. That's actually a quite exciting prospect because it means the next time that we come back, we expect we will see the benefit of the enormous growth rates that we have seen in other parts of the world. So there's not a whole lot of detail that I want to add. We are fundamentally a service organization. We're here to help. We are open, inclusive. We expect and we encourage and we welcome participation by everybody from all segments of society. And the results are usually amazing. And so with that, let me invite questions to either Mr. Beckstrom or myself on any topic that you like.
This gentleman right here.
Bonjour.
ICANN is set up in the world. We should.
COSA. En Afrique du Sud, on dit COSA.
In South Africa, we say COSA. In Senegal, we say ICANN. In Ivory Coast, we say CI. So a placebo. Second question, the $25,000 for the registration. Don't you think that this amount is just excessive?
Thank you for the question. I think the first question relates to how can anyone get involved in ICANN in Africa? Is that correct? And the answer is ICANN has an open door policy. Anyone in the world can register for free to attend our public meetings, including this one. And there are many different stakeholder groups that one can choose to become involved in, but you don't have to join a stakeholder group or constituency to attend an ICANN meeting. You can simply attend as an individual. And at an ICANN meeting, there are different public sessions where there's an open microphone and anyone can speak. The second question was about the fees and the new GTLD program. And what I want to share is that ICANN is a nonprofit organization. We serve the global public interest, and all of our efforts are done on a nonprofit basis. So the new GTLD program is priced out at a break-even basis. And the $185,000 charge for application processing relates to what we have to pay to third-party experts to process those applications. Operating a top-level domain is a completely different level of investment than having a second-level domain. And the difference is that top-level domains could have many thousands or even millions of domain names registered under them. And so the technical operations have to be extremely secure and extremely reliable. So the overall investment for operating a top-level domain is much higher than just the ICANN fees. But those fees are done and estimated on a cost recovery basis. Thank you, sir.
Hi, hello, this is Monica. I have actually three questions. One is about the needy applicants, so the special fee structure that you will have for needy applicants or the funds. What will you do if you have a lot of applications for this fund and you have to make a selection? Because that will put you in a perhaps difficult space. So do you have any criteria how you will select? The second one is there have been still open issues with regard to the TLD, to the applicant guidebook from the governments. Do you still work on open issues? On how many, and will there be still changes in the applicant guidebook before the start of the application phase? And then the third is on IANA. That we now know that there will be an open bid in November. Can you think about competition here, and perhaps very last, the automation of the route changes? You spoke about that, Rod, in your opening comments. Can you elaborate on that? Thank you.
Grüß dich, Monica. Nice to have you call in. Your first question was about the JAZ working group proposal for needy applicants and the suggestion of a reduction in the application fees. and I simply want to point out that at this point in time, the Jazz Working Group has issued a report with its recommendations, but none of those recommendations has been approved by the board of ICANN. Staff and the executive team and the board are working on trying to come up with a solution that, if progress can be made this week, could potentially be approved as early as Friday at the board meeting at the close of this meeting. But there's been no decisions made to reduce application fees at this point in time. There was an open session this morning where the Jazz Working Group presented their recommendations publicly and answered, took questions and answers. So you might wish to look at that transcription for more information on that. Secondly, Monica, you had a question about the applicant guidebook for new GTLDs, and the question was about what might change in the applicant guidebook. And it's important to note that the applicant guidebook itself states that the board of ICANN reserves the right to make changes to the applicant guidebook at any time in the future that it deems appropriate. So when we recently published the guidebook, we referred to it as a complete version of the guidebook because it included complete information on the program. There is, however, as discussed, discussions underway with respect to possible needy applicant support. And that language in any such program might be included in the guidebook or referred to by the guidebook. So that's one possible anticipated change at the present. And I think that your third question was about the automation of root zone changes. And could I ask you to please repeat the specific question on that one, Monica?
The question is just how will that work and how will the automation work? And I also included a question on will there be competition for that bid because it will be an open bid. So you are working on the automation, but on the same time you don't know if you will be the only competitor for the contract, for the IANA contract.
Okay, so I think there's two questions. One's about the root zone automation, and that is technology that was developed by ICANN in support of the IANA functions as we perform the IANA functions under the existing contracts and consistent with IETF RFCs and guidance. The root zone automation system has been deployed and it is used by ICANN. It's used by the Department of Commerce. It's also used by VeriSign. And that has occurred. With respect to the IANA contract renewal, until the Department of Commerce officially issues the bid solicitation, there's not very much that we can say. There was, as you know, a pre-solicitation document put up on the web late last week, which indicates that they're likely to put this up for bid on November 4th. But until we see the official document, we can't comment on that, and nor can we comment on what any other organizations might do.
Rod, we've got a question from Kevin Murphy, who writes for Domain Insight in London. Rod, you said in your opening address that you hope your successor, quote, has no recent or current commercial or career interest in the domain industry, end quote. Could you please explain a bit of your thinking there? Steve, the follow-up is aimed at you. Is that view shared by the board? And would that rule out executives from, for example, RIRs or CCTLD registries?
Sure, thank you. Yes, in my remarks, I mentioned that ICANN is here not to serve the domain name business. We're here to serve the global public interest. That's a much broader remit and responsibility that we have. The domain name industry itself is in some number of billions of dollars. I've certainly never heard of an estimate of there being more than 20 billion a year in domain name revenues, but certainly well south of 100 billion. The internet is used for trillions of dollars of commerce every year and has tremendous impact on global society. It's my view very strongly that the organization can and should be led by a party that does not have a vested personal business interest or history specifically in the domain name industry, lest the efforts of the organization be potentially skewed in such a direction from a policy or an operational standpoint in terms of being more sensitive to the issues or needs of the specific industry as opposed to the global public interest. So my comments were to say that I think it's very important that ICANN remain independent in the execution of the organization and the leadership of the CEO, that it be independent of any special interests in the domain name industry. Thank you. And with that, Kevin, I'll let Steve. And my comments were as CEO of ICANN and as one member of the board. It was not an expression on behalf of the board, which I will let Steve speak to.
The aspect of who's a potential candidate and who is not a potential candidate is of primary concern, and we obviously want to balance two factors. We're very concerned about conflicts of interest, and at the same time we want the widest and most capable pool of candidates possible. The board has gone partway through the process of working out those rules, and its first and key step was to make sure that everybody inside the board who's involved in the process, and in fact, as it's worked out, everybody on the board is absolutely not a candidate. We have not expressed, and we have not taken a decision about any further set of rules. We will not be in the position of hiring somebody for the position of CEO who is in a conflicted position after they take the job, which is a pretty straightforward and fully expected point of view. That is, we would not be hiring somebody who would concurrently have business interests outside. Rod's expressed a much tougher standard. That is his opinion, as he made clear. It's a very reasonable and respectable opinion, but it is his personal opinion. It will be an input to the process. We have formed a team of people within the board that is going to oversee the entire selection process and search process, and it has a number of different components to it, and one of the components will be to work out these rules.
And I think we have a question in the room here.
Then I have just 3 questions. First of all, I would like to know the very meaning of ICANN. What does it mean exactly in English, the very meaning? And second, I would like to know the next ICANN, where will it be held exactly? I mean the place. And I would like to know also the benefits that Africa may gain in these very organizations. That's what I would like to know, please. And if we can have some documents, because we don't have any document about this very organization. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. I think your first question, sir, is about the meaning of the name. And the name is the Internet, is ICANN, is an acronym for Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. The names of the Internet refer to domain names, and the numbers refer to Internet addresses, such as IPv4 and IPv6 addresses that machines on the Internet use and devices use to communicate. And that in general describes the primary scope of activity of ICANN. We're also involved with other what are called unique identifiers, or which are technically referred to as the protocol and parameter registries of the Internet. Here's a way to think about ICANN. The Internet is comprised of many millions of private networks. But when you go on to that thing in that place called the Internet, it looks like one place. What makes it look like one place? What makes it look like one place is cohesion of the domain name system, the fact that your personal email system is unique. There's no one else that has the same email address. Because if 10 people had the same email address, the system would become schizophrenic and wouldn't know how to get the message directly to you. The same is true of internet addresses. Each address needs to be unique. And then there's a set of technical settings that are determined by the technical experts of the Internet Engineering Task Force that Steve helped to found, that has a set of settings for the internet, protocol and parameter settings that are defined. ICANN is the steward for all three of those, and the ICANN community coordinates these through our policies and through the independent actions that come together. So we help the internet look like one place, which is why our slogan is One World, One Internet. That's what ICANN does. There are many documents on ICANN, and maybe someone can get the gentleman a one-page strategic plan, which I would recommend. If you go to the website, ICANN.org, you'll find a one-page strategic plan that provides somewhat of a summary, and then you'll find more thousands of pages of documents than you might ever want to read on specific policies and specific programs. And I think hopefully that also helps to answer your, the next question you had is, where is the next meeting? Our next public meeting, which rotates around the world, will be in Latin America, and it will be in San Jose, Costa Rica. The meeting, and that will be in, I believe, March of next year. The meeting after that will be in the Czech Republic in Prague in June of 2012. We'll be back in Africa, I believe it's spring of 2013. Is that correct? Sometime in 2013. And then there's sometimes regional meetings, and if you have an interest, for example, in the at-large structures, which often include civil society, then those meetings are held on a periodic basis. I think your third question was again about our documentation, and there, sir, I would direct you to www.icann.org for a rich set of information. Thank you.
And I think we have another question in the room here.
I would like to know, they said for new GTLDs, we were going to help Africa to get them. How? We know that less than 5% of users are here in Africa, and the majority of them in my country don't use them for commercial purposes. What is the use for normal people to have new GTLDs in their country?
Sure. Well, new GTLDs can be applied for by any organization, but most of those organizations will want to be of some size because of the technical requirements, management requirements, legal requirements, et cetera. And we're not saying that any specific users need them, but the global internet community has stated that they wish to have more choice in domain names, and one way to have more choice is to create new top-level domains. And so even at this event, you'll hear some proposals from different parties for new generic top-level domains here in Africa. But it could simply provide more choice for someone who, for example, is not able to get the domain name that they want today at, for example, a .com or a .org top-level domain, because perhaps that name is already taken. So we will see. I would think that for many people, their first priority is to get access to the internet through a smartphone or through a PC or a tablet computer, but that's really for them to decide.
Steve, we've got a question for you from Doogie Standiford in the UK. Is there going to be a discussion on an ethics code for board members during the meeting?
Yes, there's a session. I've lost track of the scheduling because we've been shuffling sessions around, but there is a session, well, maybe it's Thursday. Somebody help me out. Exactly on this subject.
Great, thank you. And I think we have another question in the room here. Sir?
Hello, my name is Cheikh Traoré from Radio Television of Senegal. I have a local question for the local issue. Is ICANN able to assist African requests to protect generic names like .tuba or .africa. Do you confirm this? If Senegal doesn't have the root server, will we be able to have other this kind of protection?
Sure. Let me answer your question. The applicant guidebook, which is effectively the rule book for the new GTLD program, has more than 300 pages of information. One of those sections is about geographic names, and there's different protections for continent names, for city names, for capital names, and for subdivisions of nations such as states. So in the case of a name such as the continent .africa, there's a section in the applicant guidebook that talks about the rules for such an application.
Let me add to this. In the form of the question was the possible misunderstanding of the relationship between a root server and protection of a name like .africa. All of the root servers serve exactly the same information. No additions, no subtractions, exactly the same information. So it does not matter whether you have a root server or you don't have a root server, the same information is served. The way to protect a name is, as Rod described, through the processes that are laid out in detail through the applicant guidebook. The location of root servers is to serve the community of people looking up names and to provide the best service possible on a worldwide basis. They're basically completely independent topics, and it's helpful, I think, to understand that they are decoupled and have no relationship actually. On a previous question about the conflict and ethics, the session is indeed at 1400 on Thursday. Thank you.
If I can also add, for those of you who want to see some of these documents that these gentlemen are talking about and get more illumination and elaboration about our new GTLD program or anything else on the ICANN radar, many of these documents are posted on our website, and many of them are in French. So if you wish some elaboration for your stories or some illumination, you can find it on our website.
Good. And Brad, I wanted to answer another previous question, add a little information. The next ICANN public meeting in Africa, which will be a large global meeting like this, will be the 14th to the 19th of July, 2013. But the city has not been yet chosen.
Sir.
Oui, merci.
Thank you. My name is Malik Nao for magazine Sud Quotidien. You talked about ICANN saying that it was an organization to make profit, not to make profit. So I would like to, shouldn't ICANN also have political aspirations in order to increase social justice, the control of addressing space. Couldn't you use that to promote social justice? ICANN and CCTL, these monopolies, could collect money to finance a universal service, to reduce the digital gap. So are you thinking about that, and to allow poor countries to have access at a lower cost than richer countries? Our concern pertains to new GTLDs. It seems that internet community had recommended or advised several economic studies and wanted to reduce the cost for new GTLDs, for example, by implementing protection mechanisms against bad behaviors. What's the situation? What's the status right now of these mechanisms?
Sure. Thank you for your question. The mission of ICANN, as stated in our bylaws, is to support the global public interest. And so any and all social issues that you, sir, or anyone else would like to bring forward into the ICANN policy-making process can be done so. Our events, our microphones are open at our events later this week, and any party can stand up and share their views. In addition, we mentioned the at-large structures. Those include many different groups from civil society and often express views that relate to different social issues, including whether it's the digital divide or social justice, as you mentioned. In addition, in what we call another organization called the Generic Names Supporting Organization, there's a group called the Non-Commercial Stakeholders Group, which is largely comprised of nonprofit and other organizations that focus on social issues. So there's many different places in the ICANN policy development process where different social interest groups can express their views and share them and help contribute those to the policy-making process. Thank you.
Right here.
Bonjour.
Hello. My name is, excuse me,
Je m'appelle Junior One.
Junior One
Yes, International.
from ESE International, and I think I heard of what I heard on the speech. I wanted to know what is the computer. To work with all these tools, we need the person. So Lambda, the Mr. Doe, we in Africa, we especially in Senegal, we have a problem for access to this computer because it's expensive for a student or someone who has Googling in the market and who does not have access to this tool. He thinks it's an extraordinary tool. My question, what is the policy on access on these tools regarding domain names and other such?
Thank you, sir. ICANN's role is very limited, and it pertains to the unique identifiers, or think of the domain name system, and we seek to keep the internet unified and open with respect to the domain name and addressing system. We are not involved in access or internet services, so the policies followed by ISPs and others with respect to access and pricing and national policies are issues that we are not involved with, nor are we involved with issues of the purchase of any electronic equipment. We are simply a global coordination body for the domain name system and the other unique identifiers. Thank you.
Over here.
Bonjour, je suis Victor Donang. Je viens du Cameroun et je participe à ces réunions comme fellow de l'ICANN, dont j'ai bénéficié à la bourse fellowship. Et je voudrais, avant de poser ma question, remercier l'ICANN pour cette politique d'inclusion qui encourage les ressortissants des pays en développement de comprendre ce que l'ICANN fait et de participer aux politiques développées au sein de l'ICANN. Bon, ma question concernant les GTLD, j'ai lu beaucoup d'articles sur Internet qui disent que l'objectif poursuivi, c'est-à-dire l'innovation et donner plus de choix aux utilisateurs de l'Internet, que plutôt les nouveaux GTLD vont apporter de la confusion. L'espace de nommage est déjà assez peuplé comme ça. Est-ce que l'arrivée de nouveaux TLD ne va plutôt pas apporter de la confusion aux utilisateurs finaux de l'Internet? Et ma deuxième question concerne, est-ce qu'il est possible qu'un TLD, s'il ne rencontre pas de succès, soit supprimé de la racine? Merci.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you for being a member of the Fellows Program. And the Fellows Program brings new people to ICANN every year, and to be a successful fellow, they have to apply, and there's many applicants from around the world, And you have to be a very accomplished and outstanding individual to gain one of the positions in the program. So congratulations to you, and thank you for joining the ICANN family. With respect to winners and losers of new top-level domains, our goal is to make sure that each applicant for a new top-level domain has the capability to operate it successfully. Whether it is a marketing or business success or not is not our interest. We're worried about the security and stability of the internet. The only right that we have to take back a top-level domain or shut it down is if there is repeated abuse. And part of the policy development program for new GTLDs includes something called the Post-Delegation Dispute Resolution Process. And and I know that's a long name, and it basically means if there are sustained and documented patterns of abuse in the operation of a top-level domain, then it might be taken back by ICANN. We certainly hope that doesn't happen, but that is a policy that's included in the program that's new. ICANN has not previously had such a policy with respect to top-level domains. And Steve, if you want to expand on that.
Yes, let me add my thanks to you, Victor, for being part of the fellowship program, and we're extremely pleased that it brings people like yourself into the process. Another aspect of your question, I think, if I understood properly, is what happens if there is the equivalent of a business failure or a failure to thrive for a top-level domain, and are we prepared in that case to shut down what is essentially a failed operation? We're very, very concerned about situations like that, from multiple perspectives. If a top-level domain is serving a number of other people, we're very concerned about the potential harm to those registrants, and there are quite a few protections in place to make sure that there is continuity of service so that those registrants are not abruptly taken out of service. There's a distinction between a failure that is a failure to grow and become a successful business versus some sort of more abrupt failure. We're very concerned about protecting against abrupt failures. Fundamentally uneconomical business propositions will have to be dealt with in some fashion, but again, there's a very strong attempt to make sure that there are safeguards in place so that that's handled in a very gentle and controlled fashion with minimal damage to the third parties who depend upon that top-level domain.
Brad, just another quick note to follow up on an earlier comment that I made. In your press packages, actually, there already is a one-page strategic plan and one-page new GTLD document on ICANN. So those are good summary documents for introduction to the organization, we hope.
Sir.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ibra Silla from Africa Hosting. First of all, I would like to thank you a lot for the fantastic job you are doing actually for the international community, but mainly for the Internet society. The question I would like to emphasize is about getting accreditation. You know that actually the resellers are part of the system, and they're the actors that makes the system up and running. My question is ICANN ready to give any sort of help for the African resellers or for the resellers from the developing country to get accreditation with very easy solutions? Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. ICANN does have an accreditation program for registrars, and we would very much like to have you as a part of that program. If you have any further questions, please, up here on this side of the room are a number of our executive members. Raise your hand. Some of the executive team, raise your hands here. JJ, maybe raise your hand. that are involved in different areas of operations, please feel free to take your questions of them, but we would very much like to see you in the ICANN accredited registrar's family. Thank you.
Final question?
Bonjour. Je m'appelle Abdul
Hello,
Karim.
my name is Abdul Karim.
Je suis développeur.
I'm a developer.
Merci pour
Thank
vos
you
efforts.
for your efforts.
Et voilà, je vois que tout ça, ça va très vite.
Everything is going very fast. Domain names and all of that.
Il y a beaucoup d'évolution.
Much
Je vois aussi
has changed,
de plus en plus.
and it's becoming more complex and more precise. I would like to know, for example, if we have more .Paris, .culture or something, with time could this have an impact on the first extensions such as .com? Because if I'm reselling a car, maybe I will not want only a single .com. I would like to have .auto. So will this have an impact on the first extensions? Thank you.
Well, we certainly hope that it does have an impact, since one of the goals of the program is to introduce more consumer choice and competition into the domain name marketplace. So we would certainly hope that consumers and internet end users see more choices and hopefully very competitive offerings and very competitive prices in the future. But ultimately that will depend on who applies for new GTLDs and what choices they offer. But certainly that's one of the reasons for introducing the program. Thank you, Abdul Karim.
Let me just add that right now, presumably starting 5 minutes ago, is the public session on CEO succession process in the tent in Chapiteau. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending.